It feels so good to be back at the pulpit. The lowest day of the pandemic for me so far was when I read the research on singing. I saw the first research that I read to you several weeks ago, and I thought, how do we do this? How do we get together without singing? I mean, I had already been considering all the challenges. How do we get people through the lobby? Maybe we limit the number of attendees at one time. We don't hand out hymnals. We don't do orders of service. Maybe, no coffee hour. We certainly can't be hugging or shaking hands. All of that was challenging and sad enough. But now you tell me that singing is one of the most infectious activities we can possibly do. How do we not sing? How do we not sing? Like, do you understand? UUCP is a singing congregation. We are a clapping, dancing, go around the aisles, hug each other, except for the people who don't like that. And I really honor that. And we need to be supportive of that. But we are a singing congregation. Immediately, I felt a real sense of grief for the members in our choir, those who the greatest joy is to make music with each other, and all of our other musicians and performers, our ukulele group, the resistors, our folk singers, and our wind and jazz ensembles, because that's just as dangerous as singing. All of those activities just went in a minute from pure joy and creativity to becoming an agent for disease. When I read Reverend Susan's letter, I had three simultaneous reactions. That of extreme pride, little relief, and a horrendous gut punch. I was so proud of her for citing issues of safety and reason and science and justice. I was so proud that she named the issues of inequity in this disease. And I was proud of her for making us the first denomination to take such a courageous and risky stand when it felt like the country was losing its collective mind about reopening. I was relieved because I'd seen so much talk of churches gathering again, and this wasn't even this week, don't get me started, but I'm going there. And they were talking about this summer, and I was trying to figure out how we even get back together the rest of this year. But May of 2021, I don't disagree that that's a reasonable date. I just hadn't projected it out that far. That's another 12 months when the first 2 months have already felt like a year in themselves. I imagine that many of you are also holding conflicting thoughts about this as well, that you're relieved that we're not going to be among the maskless virus deniers who are collectively putting everyone at risk, and that another year of not worshiping together is probably more than you can imagine or possibly bear. And that goes for our community, but also so many aspects of our lives right now. So let me give you a few functional caveats because I know it will come up. So first of all, these are just guidelines. We get to choose as a congregation what is right for us. In a pandemic universe that is changing every single week, your board and I are watching all the forecasts, the numbers, the recommendations, and we will make reasonable decisions based on science. I've been saying for a while that I didn't think that we were going to get together for the rest of 2020, and I do stand by that point. And we will keep monitoring. Second, we know that this virus doesn't strike equally. There are real equity issues at play here that Susan also referenced. I am really strongly opposed to creating a tiered system where some are invited to join us and others are excluded. It goes way against our values of radical inclusion and fairness. And finally, I want to name that we are never going to be able to go back to just an in-person worship. I think we have been changed forever. It has jump-started us into the digital age and shown us how to transcend geographical boundaries and reach people we've never been able to reach before. I know right now we have people worshiping with us from at least 10 other states outside of Arizona. I see you, and I appreciate you all so much. We know that some of our retired folks who worship with us just a half year in here and in another place the other half of the year no longer have to choose between their two congregations. They get to worship with both every week. And I know that many others have found online worship more inviting than in-person worship. People who are neurodiverse, for them, the online service has less stimulation, so they're not as tired at the end and can actually participate in coffee hour. For our members who really don't like the extroverted greeting their neighbor, or who have trauma around touching, this takes that element of risk out of it for them. It gives us opportunities to think about how online worship fulfills our vision or helps fulfill that to be radically inclusive. So that's a lot of functional, scientific thinking about it. And yet there are so many emotions around all of this. So many complex things that we're holding at the same time, like Katie said. Grief, fear, isolation, and yearning, and loneliness, possibly relief, anxiety, anticipation. And for a people who like to plan, I'm looking at you, Unitarian Universalists. We like to plan and we like to be in control. And there's so little control, right? And darn it, I just miss you. We miss seeing each other, seeing our kids growing up, hugging, and those yummy feelings that we get in being together. But how can I keep from singing? How? I can't. Our worship and our gathering and our community are bigger than a building, and they are bigger than in-person worship. We are not reliant solely on this building. With each passing week, I think we are all realizing that more and more. Don't get me wrong. Oh, we love our 9 gorgeous acres and the view of Camelback Mountain. We love this huge sweeping sanctuary and its lack of a 90-degree corner anywhere in the whole space. We have become attached to specific rooms where we all have memories. But it is not the building that created the community. It's the community that infused its spirit into the building. We have shown that we are a community beyond the building. The ways that our neighborhood connection groups reformed and everyone has been checking on each other is nothing less than miraculous. I hear stories of people getting groceries for each other, dropping off puzzles for each other, calling and just checking in and listening in new and deeper ways. The engagement for those who are participating in our Zoom program has been wonderful and heartening. We are getting dozens of people in a lot of our programming, people who we may have never gotten a chance to get to know before. We're having deeper discussions than I have experienced in much of my in-person ministry. And we can do all of that without a commute. I've noticed that we've been calling our worship and gatherings virtual, but they aren't. They're not virtual. Virtual means they're not real. They are real. The better word is online, or maybe even digital. But virtual means that it's not real, and I promise you that what we are doing is very, very real. It's not the same as singing together in the sanctuary, but the music that we are making together is not dependent on being physically together. We are the congregation wherever we exist. We are being asked to hold these complex emotions. And then, on Friday, opening the church became even more politicized. The United States president said that opening churches was an essential function, and he demanded governors would do so. And he said that he would override the governors if they didn't, which, by the way, he can't do. We are essential. Do not mistake that. We are essential in our communities, and it is unsafe to open. There are churches that are picketing and yelling and screaming that their government is preventing their right to worship. No, we are trying to keep people alive. We are caring for our community by doing this act. Sometimes I wonder, are we living in the same world? Are they and us in the same world? Because to me, this is an act of love. To me, this is an act of science. To me, this is common sense. And we are worshiping. We are essential. We are together. We're doing it in a way that respects all of our worth and dignity and safety. We are showing God's love, community love, global love by being here together online. My beloveds, we can hold each other during the lament and the tumult of the song. And we can stagger our breaths so that we can keep on singing. And we need to do that because some of us are going to be struggling and others are going to be strong. It may happen in the same day, and in the next hour, it will switch. We can show the world that we are a different kind of congregation. We do that all the time, and this is a chance again to say, yeah, we're not that kind of church. We can use this to show ourselves and show others how we are a congregation for our time. The singing's a little different. We can't just hide in the seats in the sanctuary and let Benji and all of the choir sing for us and cover up our voice. We need to do our own carrying of the metaphorical singing, holding the melody, adding some harmony, singing off key perhaps, but doing it with gusto. Our souls are meant to sing. We cannot do it in person right now, but we are no less a congregation. And we need it no less. In fact, we need it more. There is lamentation. There is tumult and strife. But my beloveds, we cannot keep from singing. Online or in person, we are the congregation for this time. I miss you. And I love you. And we will be right here online for as long as it takes.